He ghosted me because I ignored his warning and when I came home, the house was empty.
Sometimes we tend to do things our own way because we want to prove that we can do this the way we want to and the way we feel like. He had addressed the issue of me always going out at night, and I ignored him. My mind was made up. I didn't want to miss out. I had some sort of FOMO, fear of missing out, in me. I felt like if I listened to my boyfriend, I would miss out on a good time. Instead of listening to him, I listened to my friends, and now look at what that had got me. How I wish I listened to my boyfriend and not my friends. When I was left alone, when I found him gone, where were the friends that I had listened to? They were long gone also, and I was left all alone, licking my own wounds. I wish I had done differently. Maybe if I had listened for once and obeyed. I wouldn't have found myself in a tough situation that left me confused and depressed. I almost lost myself that time, and I don't want the past to repeat itself. My name is Molly, female, 24, and my boyfriend is Raj, male, 26. Raj and I met through a mutual friend. Well, my girls and I had gone to one of our male friends' birthday party celebrations in Washington. Raj was Liam's male friend, childhood bestie. We didn't know about him up until the day of the party. Raj is a very handsome guy, smart, neat, and sophisticated. He was a fun person. You wouldn't get bored when you were chilling with him. He's very cool, calm, and carefree. Raj and I chilled together throughout the night. Our energies and personalities connected in a way that I had never expected. We got along very well. We ended up exchanging numbers. My friends started complaining that I had been with Raj for way too long, and I had ditched them. Some people would never understand when your heart and soul connects with someone, you will feel like you can be with that someone for as long as you both live. Raj and I became close friends since then. We liked and enjoyed each other's company. What made our relationship the way it was because we both knew how to communicate with one another. We managed to put our differences and pride aside and talk things through. Another thing, if we are together, the conversation always flows. It was always like if I was out of something that I would speak about, he knew how to make up a conversation. We spent a lot of time together to a point that even my friends started getting jealous of the way I was close with Raj, but I didn't care. The more I was spending time with Raj, the more my feelings for him were developing like a speed of light. I had to pretend like I was not feeling anything while deep down I was dying of this guy's love. You know the pain when you have to act like nothing is happening in you while there's actually a huge bomb that you want to drop, but you are scared of rejection. 3 months later, Raj and I started dating. We just couldn't keep our feelings in the closet anymore, so we both confessed our true feelings. Our relationship had its share of ups and downs, but we managed to pull through everything through trust and communication. Our relationship was a bliss. We did everything together. We would sometimes go out together to have some fun alone. He allowed me to be free and to be myself. My love for Raj grew fonder and fonder. I had found a best friend, an advisor, and a lover in him. He was my perfect, imperfect situation. Though he had a tendency of going out whenever he got angry or things didn't go the way he was expecting them or the way he wanted to. Another thing about Raj was that he cannot handle or cope well under pressure, especially if it's relationship pressure. He prefers walking out and coming back when the situation is handleable. We dated for 2 years, but during our 1.5 years, things started changing. Raj became distant. He would sometimes come back from wherever he was coming from, moody and uninterested. Mind you, that time I had moved in with him. I moved in with him on our 6th month of dating. He actually begged me to move in with him because he felt like his apartment was lonely and cold without a female figure. After the whole month of convincing and begging he did, I finally gave in and accepted his request. I mean, I was in love with the guy, so I thought, why not accept his request? So I remember one day when was Raj's birthday. I had planned to make a nice, intimate, and romantic dinner for him, while I would surprise him with my sexy number that I had bought specially for his birthday. I had cooked. When I say I cooked, I mean I went all out, made all his favorites. I even lit the candles and did those romantic decor things. I made it like a romantic and intimate picnic kind of thing. I waited for Raj that day. I even tried calling him, but he was not answering. In fact, he had switched off his phone when I tried to call him for the 3rd time. From there, I saw that he was somehow ignoring me or avoiding me. I asked myself what was happening with him and asked if I had done something wrong, because the way he was acting made me think that maybe I had done something wrong, but I was not aware. I stayed the whole night that time. and even dozed off on the couch. The surprise was ruined. The birthday romantic intimate picnic was ruined. He stood me up, which was something he had never done before. I was so disappointed and heartbroken by what he had done. He actually came back the following day later. I didn't even know what to say nor do to him because I was so disappointed. I had wasted all my time and energy for him to make his birthday kind of special. Only for him to stand me up like that was the worst part, to ignore my calls. Not just ignoring, but he literally switched off his phone when he saw that I was blowing his phone up. In my mind, I had thought that maybe I was a nuisance to him. Maybe I was no longer the girl that he had fallen in love with. Maybe he was not finding me interesting anymore. All those thoughts kept lingering in my mind. They came rushing like a flood, and whenever they did, I would get crushed. My heart would be torn into tiny pieces. I didn't know if I was going in or going out in Raj's life. A lot was no longer promising, and I was actually waiting for anything to happen between us. I tried being patient with him. I tried addressing the issue with him, and he told me that there was nothing wrong between us. He told me that he was dealing with some work pressure. He apologized for the way he had been behaving and promised to change for the better. As much as I did not believe what he was saying, his apology sounded sincere, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I wanted him to prove himself without me going after him like he was a herded cow. Few days passed and he didn't change his behavior. Instead, it got worse to a point that we even argued. There's this one time when I was asking him if he no longer feels me or no longer finds me interesting. He asked why I was asking him that, so I told him all the reasons that I thought he wanted to know so he would know his mistakes and rectify them. Instead of him to keep calm and speak with me in a civilized manner, he decided to just burst out. I was so confused by the sudden burst out, so I asked why he was being defensive because I was asking questions and he had to give me simple answers. The argument went on and on until it reached the peak point where it got heated, and he decided to just walk out on me and go wherever he was going. I was left there shuttered. I missed my friends. Somehow I was starting to regret ever getting into a relationship with Raj because he had no backbone. He didn't know how to stand up for his sh*t, and it was somehow pissing me off and turning me off. On the weekend, I decided to just text my friends and ask what their weekend plan was. As I was waiting for them to respond, Raj walked in and asked to speak to me. I gave him a go-ahead. Then he started by apologizing for the way he was behaving and for walking out on me. He told me that he had found out something bad about Melissa, one of my friends, female, 26. He told me the most shocking things that I didn't even want to believe because Melissa was like my best friend, my sister. He told me that Melissa was a body seller. After her parents passed on, she had no place to go, so she resorted to selling her body to old men. That came as a huge shocker to me. But that was not all because he dropped the biggest bomb of them all. He told me that Melissa had been with some bad guys and she owed a loan shark, moneylender, a huge amount of money since her parents didn't leave her with anything. So the moneylender wanted his money back, or she should find a girl that would satisfy the man sexually until he says she has paid off her debt. Raj told me that all the other 3 friends of mine or ours actually knew about Melissa's problem, since they also date older men to make easy money. I had been warned by my boyfriend Raj not to go out late at night, especially after the recent news of my bestie, or my so-called ex-bestie Melissa, and the shenanigans that she had put herself into. But I had plans with my friends, and I didn't want to cancel on them. Yes, they had replied, and I didn't want Raj to manipulate me or emotionally blackmail me to stay in the house after I had stayed for too long tolerating his nonsense. So I ignored his warning and set out for a night out on the town. We had planned to meet up in town before we went to the club that my friends had recommended, not knowing that I was actually setting myself a very dangerous trap. My mundane routine consisted of work, occasional social outings, and returning home by nightfall. One day, however, curiosity overcame my usual cautious nature, leading me down a path of unforeseen consequences. It was a typical Saturday evening, and the sun was setting, casting an orange hue over the horizon. As I prepared for a relaxing night outside the house, a friend called me and told me to meet them at some newly launched club, so that later we would join a spontaneous gathering at a popular nightclub downtown. Feeling the monotony of my life, I seized the opportunity, ignoring the warning that lingered in my mind. My boyfriend has always been a reliable source of advice, cautioning me about the perils lurking outside after dark. Raj pleaded with me and even threatened to leave if I went ahead with my plan of meeting up with my friends. As much as I loved Raj so much, but he had disrespected and disregarded me so much to a point that I even saw myself as a nuisance or an irritating girlfriend to him. I needed a break and some air to breathe. I needed to be away from Raj, and going out with my friends was actually what I had needed. Little did I know that that unknown Saturday night was going to be my worst nightmare. Disregarding my boyfriend's words of wisdom and warning, I hastily dressed up, slipping into a stylish outfit that exuded a newfound confidence. A quick glance in the mirror reassured me, and I headed for the door, keys jingling in my hand. As I stepped outside, a cool breeze brushed against my cheeks, reminding me of the dubious choice I had made. Ignorantly dismissing any nagging doubts, I set off into the unknown. The vibrant city lights welcomed me, transforming the dark night into a swirling kaleidoscope of colors. Pulsating music reverberated through the air, igniting a rush of adrenaline within me. For hours, I danced, laughed, and mingled, soaking in the contagious energy of the crowd. It felt as if time stood still, as if this was the destiny I had been searching for all along. I wanted to forget about my relationship problems and have fun. I had a great time with my friends, laughing and dancing the night away. But as the night wore on, I started to feel a sense of unease. I checked my phone and saw that it was past midnight. I knew Raj would be worried sick about me being out so late. I decided to call him and let him know that I was safe and that I would be home soon. But when I called, he didn't answer. I thought maybe he had turned off his phone or was in a different room, so I tried calling again a few minutes later. Still no answer. I started to feel a sense of panic. Where could Raj be? Why wasn't he answering my calls? I tried calling our neighbors, but no one had seen or heard from him. I decided to head home, hoping that Raj would be there waiting for me. When I was about to go, Melissa told me that she wanted to introduce me to someone else. I wondered who that was, so I agreed to be introduced to that person. I mean, what Raj had told me earlier had long gone out of my head, so it didn't come to me that I was going to be introduced to the moneylender. Melissa took me to some small office and told me that that was where we would meet the guy. With my ignorant self, I said okay. So we went in and found a middle-aged guy. I think he was mid-50, if not 60. She introduced me to him as the friend she was talking about. I got confused and looked at Melissa, hoping to get clarification of what she was talking about. But the girl just avoided eye contact and told the guy that she would leave us alone to have a chat. My mind raced back to Raj. I had thought that if Raj was to find out about this, he would actually explode. The middle-aged man introduced himself as Isaacs. I didn't even introduce myself. I just looked at the guy and waited for him to tell me what his story was. The guy furthered by summarizing the Melissa story that Raj had told me about. He told me that Melissa told him that she had talked to me, and we have agreed that I would be the girl that would satisfy him until Melissa's debt was fully paid up. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So my friend, or the person I had considered my best friend, actually sold me to the devil. She borrowed or took money from this Isaacs guy with the hope that I was the one to pay the price. I told the guy that I had never talked to Melissa about anything like that, and I didn't even know what was going on with her. One thing I was grateful for was that the guy was kind enough to allow me to explain to him why I said I didn't know anything, while Melissa was so sure that I was the one to be the guy's sexual toy. I told the guy my truth and asked him to let me go because I had a boyfriend at home that was waiting for me. The guy looked disappointed and enraged, but he kindly allowed me to go. I couldn't believe Melissa. I mean, how can you do that to your friend? Even if it wasn't your friend, how can you sell another woman to a man just because you want her to be used so that your debts can be paid off? I regretted ever going to that club. I regretted even texting the girls and asked for their weekend plans. From there, and then I knew that I had to rush home and apologize to Raj for not listening to him when he warned me. The alcohol-induced bliss still clung to my senses, making me oblivious to the world around me. I hailed a cab, slurring my words as I clumsily mumbled the address of my home. As the taxi raced through the empty streets, the graveness of my predicament began to unravel in my foggy mind. Arriving at my street, a shiver ran up my spine as I noticed my house standing eerily quiet amidst the darkness. Stumbling out of the cab, I approached the front door, misplacing my keys in my inebriated state. The door creaked open, greeting me with an unexpected silence. Tripping over my own feet, I stumbled into the living room, only to be confronted by a heart-wrenching sight. When I arrived at home, my heart sank. The house was dark and empty. I called out for Raj, but there was no answer. I tried calling his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I prayed and hoped that he didn't do what he said he would do if I went out with my former friends. How I wish I had listened to him. He told me the exact same thing that the Isaac guy had told me, and I regret myself for not believing him. I should have trusted my boyfriend and listened to his warnings. But what did I do? I messed it all up. All for what? For a grudge that I had held on him. I searched the house, but there was no sign of him. I checked his phone and saw that it was still in the living room next to the couch. I tried calling him again, but it went straight to voicemail. I felt a chill run down my spine. Where could Raj be? Why had he left the house without taking his phone or any of his belongings? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. I spent the rest of the night pacing back and forth, trying to call Raj and hoping that he would answer, since he had a second phone which was not in the living room. But he never did. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen table. It was from Raj, and it said that he had left me. He was sorry, but he couldn't be with me anymore. He had packed his bags and left the house. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe that Raj had just left me like that, without any explanation or goodbye. I was devastated, and I didn't know how I was going to move on from this. It's been a few weeks now, and I'm still trying to come to terms with what happened. I miss Raj, but I know that I need to move on. I'm trying to focus on my own healing and moving forward, but it's not easy. I wish I could turn back the clock and go back to that night and try to change the outcome. But I can't. All I can do is sit here and cry. My home had been stripped bare, devoid of the memories and belongings that defined my existence. Each room was an empty shell, devoid of life and purpose. Panic engulfed me as I realized the gravity of my actions. Desperation clawed at my throat, and my heart pounded, sending tremors throughout my body. Unfathomable regret seeped through my veins as I finally discerned the reason behind the tragedy that befell my once cherished sanctuary. My foolish decision to ignore my boyfriend's admonishments had paved the way for my boyfriend to leave me and find someone else better. Every valuable possession, each priceless memento, had vanished in an instant, leaving only an indelible emptiness behind. Broken, I sunk to the floor, tears streaming down my face, mingling with the remnants of my shattered dreams. The consequences of my recklessness echoed mercilessly in my mind, urging me to reconsider my choices. It was a sobering realization. My actions had consequences, and the price I paid was immense. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The memory of that fateful night haunted me, serving as a perpetual reminder of the naivety that had marked my path. The love of my life, the only person who had shown me genuine love and care, never returned, and I was left to my own devices to rebuild my life from the ruins. It always breaks my heart whenever I think of the way my relationship with Raj ended. I miss him, and if I was to be given a chance to rectify my wrongs to save my relationship with Raj, I would. Even though I still think he took a very dumb and cowardly move to end our relationship. He should have waited for me to come back so we would talk about everything and find a solution to our problems. I now knew that the story he told me about was true, and it had been haunting me ever since. Ever since that day, I still get shivers down my spine when I think about what Melissa wanted me to do with that old man. I hate them so much, I no longer want to see myself associating with any of them. However, from the ashes of despair, a newfound strength emerged. I resolved to heed the warnings of those wise enough to know better, to never put my safety and security on the line. With unwavering determination, I transformed the gaping hole within me into a source of motivation, giving rise to a vigilant and astute version of myself. I decided to start therapy, which is the first route to the healing journey, right? I had to make peace with everything for my own good. Thus, although I lost my material possessions, I gained immeasurable wisdom and resilience. As I gradually pieced my life together, I undertook a mission to share my cautionary tale and tirelessly echoed Mr. James's discarded words of advice to anyone willing to listen. For there is a profound beauty in caution, an inspiration within every tale of redemption. Please help me understand some terms of a relationship because I still don't know what went wrong in my relationship with Raj. I still need Raj. I miss him so much. What I should do to get him back. Please give me advice. I'm lost. Found out about my long-distance relationship with rich guy and decided to kick me out. Hi, Reddit. Longtime fan of this app. I am coming on here today to share my story about a very sad event that occurred recently. My boyfriend dumped and kicked me out because he found out about my long-distance relationship with another guy. Now, first of all, before you judge me, I have already judged myself and I know that I am guilty. I am not here to be judged or to seek solace or advice. I am here to share my story and use here as a medium to vent. Also, it would be a plus if someone or some cheater somewhere were to see my story and learn from it. Some backstory so you understand where I am coming from. My name is Haley and I met my boyfriend Skylar in high school. Skylar was a total package. Blonde hair, blue eyes, extremely smart, and captain of the football team. Everybody liked Skylar and everybody wanted to be seen with him. I, on the other hand, was the total opposite. I was a geek and not a smart geek either. I was one of the dumb ones. I wasn't very attractive, I was relentlessly bullied, and so I had bad self-esteem issues, made worse by the fact that I was severely failing in school. I even developed eating issues, and it only got worse for me. And then, amazingly, like out of those movie scenes where something quirky brings together the handsome male lead and the weird, geeky romantic interest, Skylar came along. Except my story was absolutely real. Skylar came along. Since my grades were failing, my mom called in a favor with Skylar's mom and got him to tutor me. It was amazing. At first, Sky was very professional about it. He would come after school, help me for an hour or so, and then leave. My mom paid him, of course. However, as time went on, he started hanging out with me more and genuinely wanted to be my friend. He wanted to be seen with me. He didn't feel embarrassed by me. Within a few days of hanging out with Skylar, my reputation skyrocketed. There was no more bully, name-calling, and pranks. Skylar genuinely cared for me and he made sure to protect me. A few months after hanging out and we were dating, Skylar absolutely transformed me. He made me start paying attention to my appearance as I wanted to look good for me. He never criticized me or said anything about my appearance, but years of low self-esteem made me overthink everything. I started getting into makeup more, getting better clothes and styling my clothes well. I also started working out and I got into very good shape. In fact, I was 100 times better looking than before. Years later, and currently I am 25 years old. Same thing with my boyfriend, or should I say ex-boyfriend as he has dumped me. We started living together years ago in college. All this backstory is just so you get a sense of what I and my boyfriend have been through and how much we improved. Unfortunately, despite Skylar's best efforts, my studies never improved much, and honestly, I think that is as a result of a lack of concentrated effort on my part. And after getting my dream body, I became obsessed with maintaining it. Every energy and effort I had went into maintaining my beauty, so little effort was left for books. Skylar tried his best, and honestly, it was only due to that best that I graduated college and even high school. I barely passed, and now I regret it. You'll understand why later. I had always dreamed of being a trophy wife. Maybe it is due to all those years of bullying and being ignored by the opposite gender. But I grew to enjoy attention. I wanted to be someone's trophy wife. I wanted to be a complete stay-at-home mom. I honestly envisioned a life where I could just stay home and relax and take care of the kids while my husband would work and provide well for us. Now that I think about it, that was a very stupid idea. But I honestly did not know better then. Skylar was trying his best. He was earning well, but not as well as I wanted. I was a little bothered by it, but Skylar was so well set up that I knew that in a few years he would be earning a lot more. Also, he did a bit of freelancing on the side, and he was well sought after and never ran out of clients. So all in all was well. Sky also took care of all the bills in the house and also took care of me and my expenses, like skincare, wardrobe changes, shoes, bags, and of course he paid fully whenever we went out with our friend group or alone. I was a very quiet and reclusive person back then in school, but that was as a result of my low self-esteem and appearance. After I took care of myself more, I started becoming way more social, and Sky encouraged it. Everyone in our friend group was jealous as we had a seemingly perfect relationship, especially the girls. They envied the fact that I didn't work, but was so well taken care of by my boyfriend. Of course, Sky and I had issues about this, but all I could get was a minimum wage job as I barely graduated and had never worked in my life, so he let it be. Since I was home all day while Sky worked except when I went out with friends, I started getting more into games, most especially IMVU. I loved IMVU. I reveled in the fact that I could be anybody on there. But anybody that has played IMVU knows that it costs money to actually enjoy the game. I started needing more money from Sky. I wanted to be absolutely fabulous, not only in the game, but also in real life. And that meant steady wardrobe changes, new and expensive stuff, and so on and forth. Sky was willing to a certain degree. Sky often thought my requests were unreasonable, especially when it came to spending money on IMVU for virtual badges and clothes. While he was okay with giving me some cash for gaming, he thought a lot of it was just silly. He was saving up for a house and didn't want to waste money on things he considered unnecessary. But I disagreed. I mean, he had already saved up way more than we needed for the down payment on the house. So why couldn't I have a bit of fun with the extra cash? It caused tension between us because while he was all about being smart with money, I just wanted to enjoy myself a little. That's where I really messed up. One day, while I was playing on IMVU like usual, I noticed someone had gifted me some clothes. I was thrilled because it was something I really wanted and had on my wish list. I had been waiting for Sky to give me some cash so I could buy it, but he wasn't handing out money like before. He was all about saving up for our future, which I thought was kind of unreasonable considering how much he already had saved. But whenever I tried to argue, he'd just tell me to get a job if I wanted more money for gaming. He had a point, and it shut me up every time. I knew deep down that I should get a job, but I didn't want to. So I slid into the DMs of the person who gifted me the clothes to thank them, and we ended up chatting. His name was Jason, and he was 30 years old. We hit it off pretty quickly and found we had a lot in common. It felt easy to connect with him, and he was more than willing to give me more clothes. As I got more involved with Jason outside of IMVU, I spent a lot of time chatting with him. He was kind of full of himself, but he kept sending me cool stuff and even some money. This made me forget about any concerns I had about his personality. Meanwhile, my boyfriend Skylar started noticing that I was acting different. Instead of paying attention to him, I was always on my phone talking to Jason. Skylar got worried when he saw all the packages arriving at our door and the extra spending on our bank account. He asked me where all the money was coming from, and I didn't know how to explain. I made up a story about freelancing to make it seem like I was contributing to our finances. Skylar didn't buy it though, and I could tell he didn't trust me. But I stuck to my story, using his own suggestion that I find a job against him to justify my lies. As my relationship with Jason grew, so did the distance between Skylar and me. I found comfort in Jason's attention and gifts, even though deep down, I knew I was hurting Skylar and our future together. Jason hinted that he'd be willing to give me even more money if we took our relationship to the next level. At first, I was skeptical about mixing money with romance, but then it dawned on me. Jason lived states away. A long-distance relationship with him seemed like the perfect solution. It meant I could enjoy the perks without having to deal with the complications of a traditional relationship and cheating on Skylar. So, despite my initial doubts, I agreed to take things further with Jason. As Jason and I kept going, he kept sending me money. A lot. And me, being not so smart, just kept spending it all on fancy stuff like bags, shoes, and clothes. Instead of thinking about saving or investing the cash, I just went wild with it, chasing after the high of owning expensive things. With each purchase, I transformed into this glitzy, glamorous version of myself. But while I was looking all fancy, I was actually being pretty dumb about money. I didn't think about saving for the future or anything like that. Nope, I just blew it all on stuff that made me look good in the moment. Our friends were all green with envy, thinking Skylar was the one behind all my swanky new gear. Skylar himself was kind of puzzled by the sudden change in my spending habits. But since I wasn't really asking him for much money anymore, he figured it wasn't hurting anyone. So why argue, right? Plus, it meant he could stash away even more cash for our future goals, like buying a house, investing, and even saving for the raining days. But here's the thing. While everyone thought I was living it up thanks to Skylar's generosity, the reality was a bit more complicated. Behind the scenes, Jason was the one greasing the wheels of my flashy lifestyle. And while Skylar might have been cool with the whole situation, I was skating on thin ice, blindly chasing after luxury without thinking about the consequences. For a while, things seemed to be smooth sailing with Jason, but then he started getting pushy. He brought up the idea of flying over to see me, but I wasn't keen on the idea. Mind you, we both live in the United States, just we live in different states. Sure, I enjoyed Jason's money, but my heart belonged to Skylar. I'd known him my whole life, and I adored him. Plus, he took such good care of me. If it came down to it, there was no question. I'd choose Skylar over Jason any day. Besides, when I compared their looks, Skylar was like a Greek god, while Jason, well, let's just say he didn't quite measure up in the looks department. But it wasn't just about looks. The thought of lying to Skylar and sneaking off to see Jason filled me with dread. Skylar was no fool. He'd see through any lie I tried to spin in a heartbeat. Plus, he knew all my friends and family, so there was no way I could pull off a secret rendezvous without raising suspicion. So I kept putting off Jason's visit, coming up with one excuse after another. I told him I was busy with work, even though I didn't work, or that I had family obligations to attend to. Anything to buy myself more time and avoid him flying down to see me. It seems my lies couldn't hold up forever. My vanity blinded me to the truth, and Skylar's suspicions finally reached a breaking point. And then it happened. One night when I was fast asleep, Skylar took a dive into my phone. He must have sensed something was off and decided to investigate. He didn't stop there, though. He went through my laptop and even checked out my IMVU account. Skylar's no slouch. He connected the dots between my love for the game and the sudden gifts and money from Jason. Every message I exchanged with Jason was laid out before him, showing him the truth I'd been hiding. I can only imagine the pain he went through right there. And I can only imagine the mix of emotions running through Skylar's head. Anger, hurt, disbelief. Realizing that the person he trusted most had been lying to him must have hit hard. Skylar didn't waste any time waiting for me to wake up on my own the next morning. He startled me awake by pouring a glass of water right onto my face. I practically jumped out of my skin. Well, I definitely screamed my lungs out. Confused and drenched, I demanded to know what the heck he was thinking and why he'd pulled such a stunt. But he didn't even glance at me. He didn't say a word in response. Instead, he just coldly ordered me to pack up my stuff and leave. At first, I was completely bewildered by Skylar's abrupt demand. But when he finally turned to face me and uttered those damning words about knowing about Jason, I felt like the ground could have opened up and swallowed me whole right then and there. It was like everything came crashing down in an instant. In a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, I begged and pleaded with Skylar, insisting that I'd never physically cheated on him because I'd never even met Jason in person. But Skylar wasn't having any of it. He saw right through my feeble excuses and laid it out plain and simple. I'd been emotionally cheating on him with Jason. Accepting money from Jason while lying about my relationship status? To Skylar, that was betrayal, plain and simple. And in his eyes, that was cheating. I tried everything I could think of, but Skylar wasn't having it. Tears were streaming down my face as I begged him to listen, but he just kept packing my stuff like he was on a mission. He didn't even look at me as he spoke, his words hitting me like a ton of bricks. He told me I should be grateful he didn't kick me out the night before. It felt like a punch to the gut, realizing how close I'd come to losing everything because of my mistakes. As I watched him pack up my life, I knew deep down that things would never be the same between us. Skylar didn't waste any time. After packing up all my belongings, he unceremoniously tossed them out onto the porch. With a stern expression, he swung the door wide open and pointed outside, giving me no room for argument. It was crystal clear. He wanted me gone, and he wanted it now. I couldn't argue with Skylar's firmness. Tears kept flowing down my cheeks as he insisted I leave. He made it clear. Either I walked out willingly or he'd have to push me out, but he wouldn't lay a hand on me. Knowing things could escalate if I didn't leave peacefully, I swallowed my pride and stepped outside. Sitting on the porch with all my stuff, waiting for the Uber, felt like forever. I couldn't help but feel the stares of my nosy neighbors, wondering what was going on. Yep, there I was, all my stuff strewn across the porch like some kind of chaotic yard sale. And you better believe the neighbors were curious. They couldn't help but peek out their windows or crane their necks to see what the fuss was about. Honestly, I couldn't even blame them. If the roles were reversed and I saw something like this happening in my usually quiet neighborhood, I'd be nosy too. I'd probably be one of the first to poke my head out the window and try to catch a glimpse of the drama unfolding next door. After what felt like an eternity, the Uber finally pulled up, and I hastily loaded my belongings into the car. Skylar had long closed the door, and there was no goodbye, no last glance, just silence. As the car pulled away from the curb, a wave of defeat washed over me. It was like every ounce of strength had been drained from my body. I sat there in the back seat, feeling lost and utterly alone. I didn't even know where to go from there. I had no plan, no destination in mind. All I knew was that I couldn't stay here, not after what had happened. Skylar wouldn't allow it, so with a heavy heart, I realized my only option was to return to my parents' house, with my tail tucked firmly between my legs. Arriving at my parents' house, I felt even more defeated than before. It was like every ounce of strength had been drained from my body, leaving me feeling utterly exhausted. I was so out of it that the Uber had to remind me we'd reached our destination. Stepping out of the car, I was hit with another blow. Our joint accounts had been completely drained. I couldn't even pay the Uber driver. It was a harsh reminder of just how dire my situation had become. With no other options left, I had to swallow my pride and go inside the house to ask my parents for help. Skylar had control over our joint account, and every penny in there was rightfully his. We had separate individual accounts too, his for savings, mine for the money Jason sent me. But those were of no help now. I couldn't blame Skylar for draining the joint account. After all, it was his money. He'd always been the one to handle our bills and expenses, while I spent what I had from Jason's gifts. But now, with nothing left to my name and no way to even pay for a ride, I realized just how dependent I'd become on Skylar's generosity. It was a humbling experience, to say the least, and one that left me feeling more lost and alone than ever before. My arrival at my parents' house must have been a shock for everyone. I could see the surprise in my brothers' and parents' faces as they took in the sight of me with all my belongings. They probably had a million questions racing through their minds, but when they saw the exhaustion etched on my face, they decided to hold off on the interrogation. Instead, my mom wasted no time in whipping up something for me to eat. It was a simple gesture, but it meant the world to me in that moment. After filling my stomach, I didn't waste any time. I headed straight to bed, feeling like I could sleep for 1,000 years. Despite the chaos swirling around me, there was a sense of comfort in being back home, surrounded by my family's love and support. Honestly, as I drifted off to sleep, I knew that no matter what happened next, I wouldn't have to face it alone, and that made me so happy. When I woke up, I didn't even need to explain what had happened to my parents. They had assumed I had a fight with Skylar and decided to leave, but they were puzzled because they knew we never fought like that. However, while I was catching up on some much-needed sleep, Skylar had taken matters into his own hands and called my parents. He wasted no time in filling them in on the whole situation. When my parents tried to defend me, Skylar abruptly ended the call. But that wasn't all. Skylar went one step further and sent them screenshots of everything, laying out the whole messy truth for them to see. Waking up to that reality was a harsh reminder of just how much damage had been done. There was no hiding from the truth now, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of shame at the thought of my parents seeing me in such a light. My parents were really disappointed in me. They absolutely loved Skylar. He'd been with me since high school, supporting me through thick and thin. Skylar even helped me deal with bullies back then, which meant a lot to me. So when my parents found out what happened, they didn't hold back. For the next hour, they laid into me, scolding me like there was no tomorrow. It hurt, knowing I'd let them down and messed things up with Skylar. Their disappointment was like a punch to the gut, and I felt lower than low. It was a tough wake-up call. It reminded me of the mess I'd made and the trust I'd broken. My parents tried to find a silver lining in the mess. They said I was lucky because I never took things to a physical level with Jason, and we never met face-to-face. They believed this gave us a chance to fix things. They came up with a plan. Wait a few days for Skylar to cool off, then stage an intervention. We'd all plead with him to give me another chance. As part of the deal, I'd promised to delete my IMVU account and even all my social media. It stung, especially since I had a decent following online. But honestly, I'd have done anything to win Skylar back. While waiting for the right moment to talk to Skylar, my parents urged me to take it easy and rest up. They also pushed me to keep messaging Skylar, begging for forgiveness. When I finally checked my messages, I saw that Skylar had dropped a bomb in our group chat by posting the screenshots. It was like he'd exposed me to everyone. There was shock all around, but deep down, I sensed that some of them were secretly relieved. They'd always been jealous of me and Skylar. Feeling overwhelmed by it all, I decided to bail from the group chat and block all those fake friends. They were never really there for me when it counted. And then I gingerly crawled back into bed, seeking solace from the mess that had become my life. For a few days, my routine was pretty simple: eat, sleep, and send desperate messages to Skylar. Even though he didn't reply, the fact that he hadn't blocked me kept a glimmer of hope alive. After a week passed, my parents decided it was time to make a move. We headed to Skylar's apartment, unsure if he'd even be there. The first time we went, he wasn't home, and we had to leave empty-handed. But this time, luck was on our side. When we arrived, Skylar was actually there. It was the first time we'd seen him since everything went down. Skylar looked exhausted, but he was still as good-looking as ever. Despite feeling guilty and sad, seeing him there made me fall for him all over again. I regretted my mistake more than ever. Even in his tired state, Skylar was nice to my parents. He welcomed them into his place with open arms. It was tough seeing him deal with the mess I'd made, and I wished I could take it all back. But it was also a wake-up call, reminding me of the importance of making things right. No matter how much my parents pleaded, Skylar wouldn't budge. He flat out refused to give me another chance, listing off all the ways I'd let him down. He didn't mince words, calling me out for not pulling my weight around the house despite not having a job. It was a harsh reality check, hearing all my shortcomings laid bare like that. Skylar made it crystal clear that forgiveness wasn't in the cards, and he advised me to accept it and move on before things got even worse. It stung like hell, but deep down I knew he was right. Leaving Skylar's place was tough. I was sad and heartbroken, but I tried to comfort myself with the thought that I still had Jason to fall back on. Sure, Jason wasn't exactly the Prince Charming type like Skylar was, and I didn't love him like I loved Skylar. But he was loaded, and I figured I could use him until I found someone better. I hadn't been responding to his messages during the whole ordeal with Skylar, but now I reached out. I didn't have to wait long for a reply, but it wasn't what I expected. Jason's response hit me like a ton of bricks. He basically told me to never message him again and called me a liar. Skylar had gotten to him, and now I was left with nothing and no one to turn to. So, what I'm trying to say is, cheating isn't worth it. Losing Skylar hurts even more because he had set us up so well, and our future looked promising. But now, because of my actions, I've lost him for good. It's a painful reminder that betraying someone's trust can cost you everything, even a future you once dreamed of.